Hey everyone, we have to start in about a minute. We're just waiting for everyone to join and then we'll start. Okay, cool. Hi everyone. If you guys are able to hear me, just drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay, cool. Just a minute. Let me share my screen. Can you guys see my shared screen? Okay, cool. One more. Okay. Um, just a minute. Da-da. So, so in the last class we talked about single responsibility principle, right? Remember? I guess that concept is clear in everyone's head. Right, let me connect my iPad screen as well. Okay, cool. Now I guess everyone can see the iPad screen as well, right? So we talked about we talked about single responsibility principle. That was the first principle from the solid principles that we talked about. Okay. So we are going to continue our discussion from there only. Okay. I'll give you a situation. I'll tell you what can be a possible implementation corresponding to the situation. Then we'll see what are the issues and we'll see multiple such situations. Right. And we'll talk about one new principle altogether. Does that point make sense, everyone? Okay. How many of you guys know what is open closed principle? How many of you guys know what is the open closed principle? Abhijit says -1. What about the rest of the people? Okay. So we are discussing solid principles. We are done with the single responsibility principle, that is the S in the solid, right? We were talking about solid principles and we are through single responsibility principle. Okay. That's one step ahead in writing better, cleaner code. Okay. Now, the next principle that we are going to talk about is open closed principle. Now, just by the name, you might not be able to understand much, but this is going to be the agenda for today that we are going to talk in a bit in depth. Okay. So I would like to again take things with respect to applications and scenarios, right? So let's assume that, let's say you are working as a software engineer, right? You are working as a software engineer for an airline company, right? You're working as a software engineer for some airline company, right? That airline company can be something like Vistara, Air India, or something, because these airline companies have their dedicated web portals, right? They have their dedicated web pages. On these web pages, people can actually book a flight. Okay. People can actually book a flight. Okay. Cool. Now, let's talk about a very specific feature on this platform. Okay. Let's talk about a very specific feature on this platform. So let's say there is a user. Okay. Let's say there is a user and this user has completed the booking. Okay. Completed the booking. Completed the booking means that this user has made the payment, right? The payment is done and the booking is done. They have a reserved flight for some source to destination. Okay. So let's say this is the current state of the user. Now, what the user wants is, the user wants, like if you have ever booked these kind of flights and everything, then at last they give you kind of like an option using which you can get boarding pass and further notifications, right? Like let's say if you want to download the boarding pass after web check-in, so they give you option to download the boarding pass on your phone, on your email, via SMS, multiple things, right? So let's say that this website is going to allow users to get notifications and updates, about the flight, notification and updates about the flight. Because let's say the flight got rescheduled, you need to send the user a notification, right? If let's say the flight got let's say preponed, postponed, that's rescheduling. Let's say there is some baggage restrictions that the government has applied, which was not there when the user actually booked the flight. You have to tell that, right? Cancellations, anything. Let's say when you go to the airport and you submit your bag, you submit your luggage, right? Then also you get a notification that your luggage has been accepted. So there are multiple situations during the whole flight when a user needs to be notified about multiple things. So we need to have a service that can actually implement a notification and an update kind of a scenario, right? Okay. Now these notifications can go in multiple forms. Okay. So let's say currently the user can choose, every user can choose that I want a email notification, SMS notification, and let's say if they have downloaded the app also, then maybe let's say a push notification as well. Okay. And the user can choose, a user might choose just the email, or a user might choose SMS and push notification. A user might choose all three, right? It's the choice of a user that what kind of a notification they want. Okay. Now, and we don't have to actually implement any databases or anything. We have to just assume a sample implementation, right? Let's say we have a basic notification service class or something. Then how can we actually implement this particular logic that whatever notifications the user opted for, we should technically send these notifications whenever we have to. Let's say we now have to send a notification to a particular user. Then what's going to happen is whatever choices the user has already taken, those choices are going to be the methods through which the user will be given some notification. Now, keeping one simple thing in mind, that things are evolving technically very fast. Maybe later, we can give the user an option to onboard to WhatsApp also. Some WhatsApp notification also, maybe, let's say we might want to give the user, or let's say some Telegram notification. Let's say we have a Telegram bot. Multiple more ways of giving notifications can also come up, right? So we need to define things in a way such that they are as clean as possible, right? And the code is maintainable, extendable, so on and so forth. This is the problem statement in our hand. Is this point making sense, everyone? Is the problem statement clear to everyone? What is the situation? And am I talking about a very valid situation altogether? I'm not talking about cat, dogs, vehicles, and everything. It's a very valid and an actual situation, right? Okay, cool. So let's see one thing. Okay. Okay. So let me open my LLD folder. This was lesson 1. I'll create a new package, call it as lesson 2, open closed principle. Okay. And let's say, let's create a new package again, example 1. Okay. We'll have one more package. New package, example 2. Okay. Multiple examples we are going to take. Okay. So now, anyone with any ideas on how can we implement this kind of a situation? Just some dummy hypothetical situation. Okay. Because this question can be given to you in an interview. Anyone? Okay, let's try something. Okay. So now let's say that we have to implement this scenario. Let me close the other files. Okay. Let's say we have to implement this scenario. We are going to go in a similar fashion, that we are going to write a problematic code and we are going to write a better code. Okay. So in example number 1, I'm going to create a brand new package, problematic code. Okay. Problematic code. Inside this problematic code, let's say we are going to create a new Java class. Okay. I'll keep the type of the class as enum and I'll call it as notification type. Okay. So it's a enum class that we are actually creating. Okay. I'm going to write a very, very simple implementation altogether. That's going to be like just the first, that might be the first thing that a lot of people will think. Okay. So let's say the type of the notifications are as follows. So for example, let's say we have a SMS notification. Okay. Then let's say we have email notification, and let's say we have WhatsApp notification. Okay. These are the three different type of notifications that we can have. Okay. And let's write their implementation altogether. Right. For example, public void send SMS notification. We'll say system.out.println sending SMS. Okay. Then let's say we are going to say public void send email notification. Sending email. Okay. And then let's say we'll copy paste send WhatsApp notification. Okay. Sending WhatsApp. Okay. Now, what is the responsibility of this class? What is the responsibility of this class? This class takes care about what type of notification we support and how do we support. That's it. If you want to introduce a new notification, let's say push notification, you're going to add it in this class. Till this point, at least our SRP is more or less getting followed, single responsibility principle. That is the only reason to change this class is to add or modify a notification type. Okay. So SRP is still in shape. No problem as such at that on that front, we can say. Right? Cool. Now let's say we'll create a new class, notification sender. Okay. And this will be the class where we are actually going to send a corresponding notification. Okay. So let's say again a hypothetical situation, public void send notifications. Okay. And let's say any user is going to pass a list of notification types. Okay. It's going to pass us a list of notification types. Can I say that? So notification type. Okay. Notification types. Okay. And why we are keeping a list of notification type? Because a user can opt for multiple notifications, right? A user can opt for multiple notifications. So if you have to club multiple notification types, let's say user opts for SMS, email, WhatsApp, all three. So what we can do is we can have a list of notification types, right? And now what we can actually do is we can say for, let's say, notification type in notification types. Okay, we'll go to each notification type, right? And we'll check if, let's say, type is equals to notification type dot SMS, then what we are going to call? We are going to call send SMS notification. Okay, this function. Let's say notification type dot, or let's make them, let's say, static methods. Okay. For the timing, I'm making them static methods. Type dot send SMS notification. Else if type is notification type dot WhatsApp, we are going to say notification type dot send WhatsApp notification. If they need any argument or anything, we will pass the argument. Else if type is equals to notification type dot email, then we are going to say notification type dot send email notification altogether, right? This can be one possible way to implement the same logic, right? This can be one possible way to implement this corresponding logic for us. Okay, cool. And in fact, I guess we do not need to make them static, right? Because we will be having access to this type. So we can just say type dot send notification. Yeah, we don't need to make them static as such, right? Because we have access to the enum, right? So we'll just say type dot. Okay, cool. Pretty much simple, right? Now, if let's say the user opts for SMS and email notification, we are going to pass a list of notification type SMS and email. We are going to iterate on the list. We'll check, is the current type of notification and SMS notification? Yes, you're going to send it. Then you're going to go to the next item of the list. Is it an SMS? No. Is it a WhatsApp? No. Is it an email? Yes. Then you're going to send email notification and so on. and so on. You're going to keep on doing this because we have a for loop going on. Okay. This is the current situation that we are able to see here. Now, what I want you guys to do is, I want you guys to pause yourself here, right? You have two classes in front of you, right? I want you guys to pause yourself here and think about, is there any issue with this particular code? Make sense, guys? Is the implementation making sense? I have pushed this code on the repository as well. I have pushed this code on the repository as well. Okay. Anyone can anyone spot any issue with this code? Very good. Very good, Omkar. What else? Editing code. What do you mean by editing code, Narendra? Okay, so Rohit says that whenever a new type is added or removed, then this class also needs to change, right? Makes sense. Makes sense, right? That this is one of the biggest issues coming up here. Can I say that? Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's take both the classes. Okay. Let me bring them on my iPad. Oh, my bad. Just a moment. Okay. And let's take the second one as well. Okay, cool. So I have both the screenshots here, and let's bring them up and start discussing about potential issues that might arise. Okay, cool. Not extensible. Yes, I guess that's a one-word answer coming up here. Very good. Now, there are some serious issues that can come up with this particular piece of code, right? What are the issues? Let's talk about them. You can see that this class talks about only the notification type and how the notification is going to be sent. Okay. But the problem exists with this notification sender class. This knows too much about notification types, right? This class is knowing too much about notification types, right? That if this is the notification type, then this is the method to be sent. If this is the notification type, this is the method to be sent, and so on. First thing. Second thing. If let's say we have to add an extension here, for example, we have to add, let's say, push notification, right? Then the problem is that if you will add push notification, and let's say you add a method for push notification, that's the responsibility of this class. The problem is you have to add another conditional here to start supporting push notification. Otherwise, your code will break. if you will not make changes here in this particular class, this notification center class, if you will not add another else if, then this particular class can actually fail at runtime, right? So without modifying notification sender, we are not able to add a new feature here. Adding a new feature in a simple term is also called as extension or extendability. What is extendability? That how easy is it to extend new features in your code? And you can see this is very much restricting. And this if else comparison, this is very dangerous. Why? Because just think about it. If by mistake, like this is a very simple example, but you can have some very complex conditionals going on. If any conditional fails here and there, then you might be calling the wrong method altogether, right? So extendability is getting hampered at a very high scale here, because if you want to support a new method here, you have to actually make changes in the notification sender. And the only use case of notification sender was to send a notification, right? Why do we have to make sure that notification sender knows about the type of the notification, and for that type of the notification, what notification do we have to send? So this is knowing too much here. And that's why we can write here that we are not able to extend / add new features without modifying the class. Okay, we are not able to add new feature. Like modification and notification type is mandatory, right? If you add a notification type, you have to make modification here. But why do notification sender has to see some modifications, right? This particular situation specifically violates on a good level the open closed principle. This open closed principle is getting violated, right? Now you might be thinking, what is open closed principle, right? So let me talk about the open closed principle. Let me talk about the formal definition of open closed principle. A class should be open for extension, but closed for modifications, right? That means if you're having a class, in this particular class, its features should extend, like other people should be able to use it or add functionality on over top of it. But the code need not to be modified always. Of course, there will be some situation where you have to modify the code, but at least in this situation, there can be a more graceful way to handle it so that you don't have to modify the logic here, because this might be very crucial logic for you. For example, let's say you want to support multiple payment methods, that some part of the payment the user can do with one payment method, some part of the payment user can do with other payment method, like how we do in offline shopping, right? That sometimes we pay 30% by cash and the remaining by credit card, things like that. Let's say you want to also support that kind of feature inside your e-commerce application. So your business logic can be pretty complex. And in such a pretty complex business logic, having this kind of a, I would say, if guards, that's problematic, right? That's why you can say that without modifying this piece of code, we are not able to extend a new functionality inside notification type. Technically, notification sender should have been able to build functionality on the top of it. It doesn't need to actually write new code for every new functionality that you are writing here. That is why the open closed principle is getting violated. How many of you guys are able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Guys, tell me if you are able to understand this or not. Now, can you guys tell me how can you modify this code so that it becomes a bit better? Now it's your task. How can we improve it? how can we improve the code? Code slide. Sure. Abhijit, have separate class for each notification type sender. Okay, makes sense. At least one step forward in making things better. Okay. Rohit, how does that help? Very good, Omkar. Very good. One abstract class and the notification sending in one class. Okay. Cool. Cool. So you guys are giving definitely some really good suggestions, and some of them are actually finally correct as well. So how can we improve the code? See, one way to improve the code can be that you have new concrete classes. One concrete class you say SMS sender. One concrete class you have email sender. One concrete class you have WhatsApp sender, right? And let's say, what do? You have your send notification method. You have your send notification method in each class. Okay. So let's say each class is going to have a method send notification. Okay. Send notification and send notification. Right. And instead of me passing a list of enum, let's say what will happen is that we are going to pass a list of these objects, right? We are going to pass a list of these objects, right? And let's say these objects will be calling their send notification method. Okay. If we are able to think in this particular direction, then we are going in the right direction here. Okay. Cool. Now just think about it. If let's say you have to pass now a list, how will you pass a list? Because every class is a different class. SMS sender, email sender, WhatsApp sender, right? So are you going to make a method like this? Like inside your final notification sender, right? Let's say there is a final send method. Like, are you going to pass a SMS sender object, right? Then email sender object, and so on. Are you going to pass them as arguments? No, that's definitely not a good way to go for. That's why a lot of times you will see people actually saying that you should not, like in good number of cases, you should not depend on concrete classes. These are concrete classes. I am trying to depend here on concrete classes. If I try to pass the concrete class objects here, then I'm trying to depend on the concrete classes. Dependency on concrete classes is definitely not a good way to go for. You should, instead of going for concrete classes, you should depend on abstractions, right? So the hint here would be try to depend on abstractions. And when I say abstraction, polymorphism should come into your mind, right? That is, let's say we have an interface. Let's say we have an interface, right? We'll be having a interface, let's say notification. Okay. Let's say this notification interface we have, and this notification interface will be implementing a send method. It will be implementing a send method. Okay. Or it will be having a signature of a send method. And now what's going to happen is we are going to write concrete classes. We are going to write concrete classes of let's say SMS notification, WhatsApp notification, email notification, and so on. These concrete classes are going to implement the notification interface, and they will be having their own implementation of the send method. They will be having their own implementation of the send method altogether. And what I can do is inside my notification sender, I can pass a list of notifications, right? I can pass a list of notifications, right? Because SMS notification is also a notification. WhatsApp notification is also a notification. Email notification is also a notification. Can I say that? So let me start coding it in front of you, and then you will realize what is going to become better if we do something like this. So let me create a new package. I'll say better code. Okay. Inside better code, let's implement a Java class, which will be an interface notification. This notification interface is going to have a method void send. Okay, cool. Now let's say we are going to have a new class, Java class, SMS notification. Okay. SMS notification is going to implement your notification class. Okay. And if it is implementing, then it has to override the send method. So let's override the send method. And let's say it's going to have its own implementation, system.out.println sending SMS. Okay, cool. Similar to this, we are going to have a email notification as well. This is also going to implement notification class. Notification interface. And again, we'll just implement the methods, that is send. And let's say here inside send, you are going to say sending email. Okay. And one more, let's create, let's say WhatsApp notification. This is going to implement notification. Okay. Implements notification. And again, this is also going to implement your methods. We are going to say sending WhatsApp. Okay. Now you can see we have concrete classes which are going to implement notification. These depends on notification. And now let's bring our notification sender class as it is. Okay. Let's make a new notification sender class here. Notification sender. Okay. Cool. And now how this is going to look like is, we are not going to depend on notification type. No. Instead, we are going to get a list of notification and we'll call them as notifications. Right. And now we do not need to have any if check or anything, right? We do not need to do if notification dot type is anything. No, we don't need to do that. All we'll do is we'll say for a notification inside notifications, we are just going to call notification dot send. That's it. Now just think about it. You don't have to put any if else or anything here. Now at any point of time, let's say now I introduce one more type of notification. All I have to do is add its concrete implementation. In the previous problematic code also, you had to implement the logic of how will you send push notification in the notification type class, right? Here also we have to implement that logic, but now we are going to implement that logic in a new file. Push notification. Okay. This implements notification. And let's say, again, we are going to override the send method. Let's copy. Push notification. Paste. And we are going to say sending push noti. Okay. Now just think about it. We have now implemented a push notification logic, right? Adding this push notification logic has no impact on notification sender, because notification sender doesn't care about what type of notification are you sending. You are sending a type of a notification. Every notification has a send method. I care about the send method. Whatever list of notifications you will give me, I will send them. Doesn't matter. So if some user opted for email, push, and WhatsApp, we are going to just send them email, push, and WhatsApp notification. Now, if you carefully see, we are solving single responsibility principle and open close principle on a very high scale. Why? Because now, previously, notification type class was going to change for every new notification, right? That was still, I would say, good, because at least at last the responsibility is to send notification somehow. But now we even have a better thing. If we introduce a new notification, the other notifications are not going to get impacted. First thing. Second thing, we can test each notification individually very easily. Third thing, without modifying notification sender, we are able to extend a new notification, I would say, service. So this is following your open close principle on a very good scale, right? And that's how you have to think, right? That's why a lot of times you will see, depending on abstraction rather than actual concrete classes, is going to help you a lot in understanding a lot of design principles, right? So I'll just push this code. Added better. Here we go. Yes. So you can say it's like kind of like that 1NF, 2NF kind of thing. So if you are following open close principle, definitely on a very good scale, SRP is also going to be sorted for you. Does that point make sense? Does that point make sense, guys? ठीक है. अब ये तो like whatever we discussed was with respect to what? A Java code, है ना? ये तो इंटरनेट पे दीदी भैया भी पढ़ाई देंगे. ओपन क्लोज प्रिंसिपल जावा का कोई भी एग्जांपल लेके बता ही देंगे. चलो मतलब मे बी व्हीकल का एग्जांपल ले, बट वो तो बता ही देंगे. बट दैट्स नॉट द ओनली सॉफ्टवेयर developers out there, right? What about front-end people? Right? What about front-end people? Let's say if you're writing a React code in plain JavaScript, you don't have any interfaces and everything. So is there no concept of open close principle there, or what it is? Right? Let's talk about it. Okay. I'll give you a nice example, man. I prepared a nice example. Now let's talk about an example with respect to front end. Okay. That how in a front end code, things might be problematic. Again, because I'm implementing it in a kind of like a Java code base. So don't expect it to run, but I'll still implement a bunch of code files. Okay. So let's say we are having a React component like user profile dot JS. Okay. And let's say the code looks something like this. Okay. Let's say something like this. Okay. So you can see what's going on here is that there is a user profile component. It takes a user object, or you can say user prop, and it checks what is the role of a user. If the role of a user is an admin, then you render an admin view. If the role of a user is an editor, you render an editor view. Otherwise, you render a standard view. And trust me on this, apart from switch case, some people might use if else here, but you will see a lot of people doing something like this, that if they have to show different type of a view of a component for different users or for different situation, they're going to have if else going on here and there, right? Is it a bad thing? On this small scale, I would say no, it's still doable. But if you are contributing on a scale of, let's say, LinkedIn, or you're contributing on a scale of, let's say, Google, where the code base can be extremely big, this thing can become very problematic, right? Right. Otherwise, you will see people doing short circuiting, that user dot role, and then they might be putting some ternary operators and everything, right? Bunch of different type of code, but every code will be having the same issue, that they are not following open close principle. Now, why this code is not following the open close principle? Because now let's say we introduce a new view. Let's say seller view. Now, if we introduce a seller view, then also the user profile code is going to change. We will not be able to extend the seller view functionality without modifying the user profile code. That is actually bad. Now, you might be thinking, how can we improve it? So, how can you do it is, now let's say that you are having a, not Java class. Let's say you are having a user profile, sorry, my bad. Just a minute. So let's make a package, problematic code. Okay, and pass this inside this package, refactor. Then let's create another package, better code. And inside this, let's make another new file, user profile.js. Okay, cool. Now, what we are going to say is that how the user profile component should look like is, let's say we have another file, which is, let's say, profile view selector, or you can also call it as profile factory, but I'm not introducing the words like factory and everything because we're talking about them later as well. But let's say you have a profile view selector file. Okay. And let's say you say const profile view selector. Okay. And inside this, we are going to, let's say, have a method get profile view. Okay. We'll be getting a role. And let's say we'll be putting a similar switch case on the role, right? That is, if it's an admin role, then let's say we are going to return a admin view. Okay. Otherwise, let's say if it is a editor, then let's say we are going to return editor view. Right. Otherwise, the default is going to be return standard view. Standard view. Okay. Cool. And now let's say we'll say export default profile view selector. And let's say inside user profile, now we are going to create the user profile component. Okay. Let's say it takes a prop user, and what we are going to do is we are going to just say return or let's first of all get this const view is equals to, now we will use that profile view selector dot get profile view, and let's say we'll pass the user role, user dot role. Okay. And then let's say we are going to have our component. So let's say this particular component, or let's say we will segregate the view also separately. Let's say profile component, something like this, right? And we are going to pass the user inside it, user as, let's say, or let's do this. Let's technically do this. So we have this view, right? We have this view. So we'll call it as profile view. And we are going to render this profile view, and we'll pass the user prop inside it. Okay. And we'll say export default user profile. Now let's see what happened. Now, user profile doesn't care about what is the type of the user, because that responsibility has been now given to profile view selector. Okay. That responsibility has now been given to profile view selector. Inside profile view selector, it takes a role and automatically decides what role you have to actually render. And then inside user profile view, you can see this user profile component is just responsible for rendering profile view. What profile view is there, how it is prepared, any conditional checks or anything, it doesn't care about that. It does not care about that. All it does is it just passes the user prop, because all the logic for that is already written inside these components, right? So you can see that we have actually implemented this open close principle again here, because previously again and again this user profile class had to update if a new let's say view is going to be introduced. But user profile should not care about any view, right? Because whatever is the view, it has to just render it. So what is the view should be now handled inside profile view selector. And this kind of a factory, or you can say this kind of a selector class, you can actually write in order to implement I would say cleaner implementation which is following open close principle inside this user profile component. Does that point make sense, guys? Are you able to get an idea? In case you don't know about React, don't worry. I put this example for all those people who barely understand anything apart from React, because there can be people who are hardcore front-end people. But is this point making sense? The moment you realize that due to your change, like if you want to ask me, like, what is the situation when we realize that whether OCP is getting followed or not, right? The moment you realize that for adding a new functionality, you have to make changes to a lot of code, existing classes. Probably there is a possibility that you can do things better, which can follow OCP in a nicer way. Does that point make sense, guys? In abstraction, we say we hide things, but to whom the things are hidden? Are we hiding? Rohit, think about it like this. In example one in Better Code, you are hiding the type of notification from notification sender. Can you see that? Notification sender doesn't know about the type of notification. That's abstraction. Narendra, if you have to add a seller view, you create a seller view component and just update the view selector. User profile remains untouched at all. Just like how we did for notification sender, right? You'll add a new notification center which will be implementing this, and things will work absolutely great, right? But yeah, coming to Rohit's point. Rohit, did you get my point that now you have hidden the functionality that what is the type of notification? Notification center doesn't know about that now. Can I say that? The only responsibility for profile view selector is to select which view to show. What other responsibility it has? Very granular, right? And this is testable. This one particular unit is testable, right? Got it? One fun fact, there is a design pattern that we are going to talk about later called as strategy pattern. You guys can read about strategy pattern. Strategy pattern is, I would say, one of those design patterns that will be most frequently asked in your interviews. I will also help you guys make a nice small coding implementation to try strategy pattern, right? And strategy patterns actually resolves open close principle issues in your code, right? In multiple Sui 2 interviews, I have seen that people ask questions around strategy pattern, and I trust me on this. Strategy pattern is one of the most frequently asked design patterns, or questions around this design pattern, like somehow or somewhat strategy pattern will be applied. So in order to resolve OCP, if you think with respect to strategy pattern, then also it becomes very easy. We're going to talk about strategy pattern in the upcoming set of classes. I don't think there is an issue until or unless you are giving an interview of a position which is not expected to be in JavaScript. For example, if you like if you appear for Flipkart SD2 interviews, they do not expect you to write things in plain JavaScript. They expect you to write in either C++, Java, Ruby, like some kind of a heavy object-oriented programming language. You can write in JavaScript, but there is a highly likely chance that they might ask you questions which you will not be aware about because you have not seen interfaces and everything in JavaScript and everything, right? So with TypeScript, still a lot of things will be still doable, at least, but with JavaScript, it can create problem. But again, that's for a situation where the position is demanding you to be of some language like C# or Java or C++, which are heavy object-oriented languages, right? It's like if there is a front-end interview and you are prepared for Java, how's that gonna work? The type, Rohit, the type of notification, like This for loop is going to call which notification it doesn't know. It just calls a notification. Which notification it is going to call will be decided on runtime, right? So that implementation, it doesn't know. It's all hidden up from it. It just knows that, okay, there is a notification interface. Now, who implemented it, how it got implemented, it's all abstracted from this particular class. Can I say that? Make sense, guys? Now, let me give you a task. Let me give you a task. Okay, just like the last class, let me give you a task and let's see who is able to implement it. Okay, so example 3, problematic code. Okay, it's very similar to the earlier example, but I still want you guys to practice it enough. That's why I'm asking you to do it. Okay. Or let's have it like this. Okay. Can you guys see this report generator class? Okay. Now, I'm not going to talk much. You don't have to, you are not allowed to Google or do anything because it's very simple, straightforward example. What you have to think is, that whether OCP is getting followed here or not. And if not, then how can you make this code OCP compliant? Make sense? Is the task clear to everyone, guys? So you can go to lesson 2 open close principle, example 3 problematic code. Oh, you don't have the access to the GitHub? Take it. I want to give you guys enough examples so that at any point of time you see similar thing going on in your code bases, you realize immediately that, oh, something like that is going to happen. Okay. Think about it, guys. How can you implement this? This should be very much straightforward with respect to whatever we have discussed as of now. Time's up, guys. Now tell me, what is the situation? Do you see this as the same example number one? Guys, can you see this is same as example number one? Great. Yeah. Yep. You guys are on the right track. Strategy pattern पढ़ाने में ज़्यादा दिक्कत तो नहीं आएगी मुझे. Great. So now on your screen, there is one more example, example number 3, problematic code. You can see it's a report generator. Again, kind of like a similar situation that if the report type is PDF, then it generates a PDF report. If it's Word, it generates a Word report. Otherwise, report type not supported. Again, in this piece of code, OCP is getting violated because if we want to extend the functionality that now we want to support a new type of report, we have to make changes to just generate report code, right? How can we improve that? In a similar way, what we did earlier. So we can have a new Java class that can be an interface, report generator. Okay. And let's say it returns your string generate. Right? There's a method string generate. And now you can implement concrete classes which are going to depend on this interface. It's a PDF report generator. This is going to implement report generator. Okay. And what we are going to do is we are going to implement the methods generate, and here whatever you want to write PDF report. Okay. Similar to this, you can have another class called as Word report generator. This also implements report generator, and this also is going to override the methods Word report. Okay. And finally, there will be one main class that is now not going to depend on any type, any particular type, but instead they are going to just depend on report generator, and whatever will be the report generator, it will automatically call the generate method. So you can see very easily we have actually segregated the code such that it is OCP compliant. So I'll push this code and it should be good to go for us. So you guys understood things? Folks, everyone? It's not that difficult to write better code. Okay, cool. So today also I'll give you a take-home task. In this take-home task, you might have to explore things beyond whatever we have discussed as of now. Okay. To write a good, nice, cleaner implementation. Does that point make sense? We are going to discuss those things later, of course, but you might have to make some effort on your own end. So I want to see how many of you guys are ready to make some extra effort. Okay. So I'm going to write two problematic classes. Let's call it as discount calculator. Whosoever is done with this assignment will be almost in a very good to go shape for some of the design patterns. Okay, I'll make a, let's say, public enum product, right? Or public enum product type. Okay. And let's say it is electronics. Sorry, let's make it enum product type clothing. Okay. And let's make a class product. Okay. Which will be having a, let's say, double get price. Okay. Double get price, and let's say return something like this. Okay. It will be having a type. So product type. Okay. And let's say double price. Let's return the price. Okay. And let's see. Oh, sorry, get type method. Apart from get price, there is a get type method as well. Get type method. We are going to return type here for that. And this price should be capital P. Okay. And the return type should be product type. Okay. So kind of like a rough implementation I have done here. Okay. This is one. Another one is let's say, let's create a new Java class. Okay. And okay, let's say we'll say class insurance quote. Okay, these are dummy classes, so you don't have to bother much. And there should be a class vehicle. Okay, and let's say class car extends vehicle. Okay, and class truck extend vehicle. Okay, so you can add your own dummy implementation also in these classes if you want. Okay, but this is the second class. Okay, so I'm not talking much about them. You might have to make some extra efforts to actually get them going in a good shape, right? Added take home tasks. Here we go. Cool. Does that one make sense, guys? Any questions regarding open close principle from anyone? And are you guys liking this format that we are taking some real life situations from both as much as possible, from a front end code and a back end code, and trying to implement things in a certain way? And if at any point of time you guys feel like you want to implement anything in certain way, like you want to implement things in, let's say, Python or something, I would highly recommend you either go to like ChatGPT or Bard and try to get this code converted. It should not take much of an effort if you know basic concepts like classes, interfaces, objects, and everything. Getting my point? Okay. So just again giving you a hint that you might need something extra. So to get these two examples going, so do try to make an effort, right? So we are done with single responsibility principle and open close principle, right? So there are three more principles that we are going to talk about, right, in the upcoming set of classes. And post that, you will see direct applications of these principles getting formulated in the form of design patterns, that a lot of people say, learn this design pattern, that design pattern. If your solid principles are ready, trust me, if your solid principles are ready, then technically a lot of design patterns are going to be cakewalk. Extra as in other solid principles, you can say a mix and match, maybe some patterns here and there, Abhijit. I'm not giving you much of a hint. I want you guys to think as openly as possible. Okay. Cool. So in the last class, I also shared you some SRP articles. Did you guys go through that? I shared you some articles on single responsibility principle. Did you guys go through that? पेड था यार. मीडियम के आर्टिकल्स निकालने का कोई तरीका नहीं होता क्या? ओ, अरे यार, मीडियम पे बढ़िया ऑथर लिखते तो हैं आर्टिकल्स। हाउ शुड आई शेयर इट विद यू गाइस देन? स्क्रीनशॉट लेके नहीं भेजना चाहता क्योंकि आई डोंट थिंक दैट वुड बी राइट। हाउ कैन आई शेयर यू दोज आर्टिकल्स देन दैट आई फाइंड नाइस एंड यूजफुल? स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग, पूरी क्लास में साहिब ने एक शब्द नहीं बोला है, एक आंसर नहीं दिया, आके सीधा स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग। बाय बाय। प्रिंट यार नहीं, ये प्रिंट प्रिंट करेंगे या स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग करेंगे मतलब इट्स समथिंग दैट आई डोंट वांट पीपल टू डू फॉर माय कोर्स, तो मैं किसी और की चीज के लिए कैसे कर दूं ये चीज? मुझे लगा मीडियम में मोस्टली दिख जाए, मुझे लगा था 5-7 तो हफ्ते के या महीने के दिखते हैं ना, ऐसा नहीं होता? लेकिन अ मंथ यू कैन सी 5 और समथिंग, ऐसा नहीं है? ओह हाँ यार, तो मतलब आई डोंट वांट टू डू समथिंग दैट आई डोंट रेकमेंड पीपल डूइंग विद माय ओन कोर्स, मतलब उनका ओरिजिनल वर्क है, हो सकता है उनको पैसे मिलते हो इसको लिखने से। सो ठीक है, ओके, आई सी इफ आई कैन सेंड सम आर्टिकल्स दैट आर नॉट पेड। पहले मुझे फिगर आउट करना होगा कि पता कैसे लगता है कि पेड है या नहीं है। यार मैंने तो कर रखा है सब्सक्राइब, आई विल टेल यू। वो क्या है प्राइसिंग, मतलब मेरे को याद नहीं है, मैंने थोड़ा टाइम पहले करा था। मीडियम प्राइसिंग, कोई स्टूडेंट प्लान नहीं होता क्या? फ्रेंड ऑफ मीडियम, व्हाट इज फ्रेंड ऑफ मीडियम? मीडियम मेंबर। ओ सी, राइटर्स ऑल्सो अर्न राइट, देखो राइटर्स भी कमा पाते हैं जब तुम उनके कुछ स्टोरीज रीड करते हो। तो आई डोंट वांट टू पायरेट और एनीथिंग। $5 अ मंथ है और $60 अ ईयर। आई डोंट थिंक कोई स्टूडेंट डिस्काउंट मीडियम मेंबरशिप। ओ देयर इज अ स्टूडेंट डिस्काउंट। पढ़ना इसके बारे में कैसे करना है इसको? यूनिडेज सपोर्ट टीम। हाँ देखो कुछ तो है, पता नहीं, कुछ तो शायद कर दें लोग। बाकी मतलब इफ यू गाइज आर वर्किंग, अगर तुम वर्किंग प्रोफेशनल, मतलब मैंने इसलिए क्लास में लास्ट क्लास में पोल लिया था दैट हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू गाइज आर वर्किंग प्रोफेशनल। अगर तुम वर्किंग प्रोफेशनल देन आई गेस इट्स अ गुड इन्वेस्टमेंट फॉर योर लर्निंग। अगर तुम मतलब मान लो मेट्रो में जाते हो या कैब में जाते हो, एक आर्टिकल पढ़ लिया, मैं तो सुबह उठ के एक आर्टिकल पढ़ लेता हूँ, रोज नोटिफिकेशन आई होती है। तो और लोग छोटे छोटे लिखते हैं और बढ़िया, मतलब बढ़िया एग्जांपल्स के साथ लिखते हैं, तो फटाफट चीज़ें समझ में आ जाती हैं। यू कैन ट्राई, पता नहीं मतलब, योर कॉल। आई ट्राई टू सी कि मतलब कोई फ्री प्लेटफॉर्म से भेज पाऊँ। dev.to के आर्टिकल्स भी ठीक होते हैं, लोग वहाँ पे भी लिखते हैं, बट वही है कि वहाँ पे शायद पैसे नहीं मिलते, तो थोड़े से मुझे ऊपर नीचे लगते हैं आर्टिकल। बट आई सी इफ हैशनोड या dev.to के मैं आर्टिकल्स भेज पाऊँ। रोहित ऑफ कोर्स तुम वो रिपोर्ट टाइप की अलग इनम क्लास बना सकते थे यहाँ पे। ये कह रहे हो ना पीडीएफ रिपोर्ट जनरेटर, बट वैसे तुम्हें रिपोर्ट टाइप की अब कोई जरूरत है नहीं। टेक्निकली रिपोर्ट टाइप की तो कोई जरूरत नहीं है ना, क्योंकि हर रिपोर्ट टाइप की तुमने एक कंक्रीट क्लास बना ली है, तो तुम्हें अभी इनम की जरूरत नहीं है। चाहो तो हर इन इन क्लासेस के अंदर ही मतलब इसको इंटरफेस की जगह एब्स्ट्रैक्ट क्लास से एक्सटेंड मान लो अगर तुम करते, तो हर क्लास में टाइप प्रॉपर्टी ही रख लेते। मतलब आई गेस देयर देयर कैन बी सर्टेन वेज टू हैंडल टाइप वाला थिंग। फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे रिपोर्ट जनरेटर है ना, तो तुम एक और मेथड इंप्लीमेंट कर दो जैसे स्ट्रिंग गेट टाइप। ठीक है, तो हर हर क्लास को अपना एक गेट टाइप मेथड डालना पड़ेगा, उससे उसका टाइप पता लग जाएगा। नहीं, तो अलग से एक इनम क्लास की जरूरत पड़ेगी नहीं। मेक सेंस? पहले इनम क्लास की जरूरत क्यों थी? वो आइडेंटिफिकेशन के लिए जरूरत थी ना, कि कौन सी वाली रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, या फिर जब यहाँ पे थे तो कौन सी नोटिफिकेशन सेंड कर रहे हैं, उसके लिए इस टाइप की जरूरत थी। बाद में उसकी जरूरत नहीं है, राइट? ओके, इज आईपैड अ गुड इन्वेस्टमेंट? नहीं। मतलब मैं, मेरे को पढ़ाना होता है इसलिए मैं आईपैड यूज करता हूँ। अगर तुम्हें पढ़ाना नहीं है या तुम्हें ड्राइंग नहीं करनी है, आईपैड इज वेस्ट। अगर तुम्हें लग रहा है कि तुम नोट्स लोगे उस पर या कुछ है, तो मतलब या तो तुमने जिंदगी में, तुम मतलब महीने के अगर 4 रजिस्टर भर देते हो नोट्स ले लेके, अगर तुम वो बच्चे हो जो 15 या 20 रुपए वाला जो रजिस्टर आता है, वो 4 रजिस्टर तुम महीने के भर देते हो, तो फिर ले लो आईपैड, क्योंकि तुम बहुत पेपर वेस्ट कर रहे हो। अगर तुम 6 महीने में एक रजिस्टर नहीं भर पाते हो, तो फिर तुम आईपैड पे भी कुछ नहीं कर रहे हो। ठीक है, पेन टैब वेन टैब कुछ लेने की जरूरत नहीं है, मतलब पेन टैब भी यार 6-7 हजार का आता है, 20 रुपए की कॉपी ले लो ना। मैं मैं कभी नहीं लेता भाई आईपैड, मैं उसे बता रहा हूँ, मेरे को पढ़ाना होता है। मैंने उससे पहले कभी नहीं सोचा था जिंदगी, मतलब एप्पल के सारे प्रोडक्ट में आईपैड इज द वेस्ट, सबसे बड़ा वेस्ट है। तुम मुझे कुछ भी बेच दो, कुछ भी बेच दो कि मैं इस वजह से आईपैड लेने वाला हूँ, मैं फाइनली तुम्हारे पीठ पे 2 बार थपथपा के ही कहूंगा सॉरी भाई, अब क्या कर सकते हैं तेरा। आई डोंट थिंक पीपल शुड बाय आईपैड, वेस्ट। या मतलब मूवी भी नहीं देख पाते यार इस पे ढंग से। और लेना ही है तो मतलब भाई मीडियम का वो ले लो ना सब्सक्रिप्शन, $6 नहीं दिए जा रहे तुमसे। आईपैड से लेना है तुम लोग है, काम की चीज लो ना। आता है भाई आईपैड, मतलब मुझे वेस्ट लगता है भाई। मतलब मैं पढ़ाने के अलावा मेरे डेस्क पे आईपैड, जैसा मैं रात को छोड़ के जाता हूँ अगली क्लास से पहले, वैसे का वैसा आईपैड पड़ा होता है। और अगर तुम्हें लेना ही है तो मतलब मैंने तो खुद भी बहुत, सबसे जो चीप था ना, आईपैड एयर, वो लिया था। लाइक उस टाइम पे इससे चीप कुछ नहीं था। आईपैड एयर आता है, वो ले लो। प्रो तो बिल्कुल, प्रो लेके तो मतलब, या तो है तुम्हारे पास मतलब पीछे बहुत पैसा है भाई तुम्हारे पास। मेरे जब अब ये तो, ये भी नया वर्जन होगा एयर का, मैंने तो 2021 में लिया था, 2020 में लिया था मैंने। तो इसमें तो अब M1 है, आई डोंट थिंक मेरे वाले में M1 है। तो जो एयर है वो रिलेटिवली चीप होता है। और जो काम तुम्हें, जो जिस लेवल पे तुम लोग हो, जिस लेवल पे तुम लोग हो, उस लेवल पे अगर तुम्हें लेना ही है आईपैड, तो एयर इज सॉरी आईपैड इज मोर देन इनफ। तो इसकी कॉस्ट भी रिलेटिवली बहुत चीप होती है, मतलब क्या है इसकी कॉस्ट। सबसे कम मेमोरी वाला लो, वाईफाई लो, नॉन सेल्यूलर, कोई एनग्रेविंग नहीं चाहिए। अगर हाँ, और अगर आईपैड ले रहे हो तो फिर पेंसिल के साथ ही लो, बिना पेंसिल के आईपैड भी वेस्ट है। नो एनग्रेविंग, सेव, कितने का पड़ता है ये? कोई मैजिक कीबोर्ड नहीं चाहिए हमें, एप्पल केयर नहीं चाहिए। भाई साहब 71 हजार का पड़ता है ये अब। मैंने यार 40-45 कुछ का लिया हुआ है। इन्फ्लेशन तो आ गया भाई। 40-45 के में पड़ जाता है ना, हाँ मतलब सेल वेल में लो भाई, ये तो मतलब बहुत महंगा पड़ रहा है। और वो भी मत लो भाई, मत लो, मत लो। प्रो, भाई कुछ भी बेटर नहीं है भाई, कुछ भी बेटर, मैं बता रहा हूँ। एक ना पुराने वाला एक पुराने वाला सिर्फ आईपैड होता है, सिर्फ आईपैड होता है, या तो वो ले लो भाई। वो बिल्कुल ही जो सबसे सस्ता लेना ना, सबसे सस्ता वो ले लो। साहिब कह रहे हैं 90 हजार कर दिए भाई, मुझे देता 90 हजार, 2 साल में डबल कर देता हूँ तेरे। सही, मतलब इफ यू वांट कि मतलब तुम्हें कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी है फॉर अ प्रोग्रामिंग परस्पेक्टिव ना, मैं तुम्हें बताता हूँ, मिलन भी कह रहा है, मतलब आई गेस चैट ओपन क्यों नहीं है। मतलब मिलन जस्ट मेंशन, इन्वेस्ट इन अ गुड मॉनिटर। इफ यू गाइज कोड इन विंडोज, तब तो मॉनिटर चाहिए ही चाहिए। मैक वालों के लिए भी आई वुड हाईली रिकमेंड कि इन्वेस्ट इन अ गुड मॉनिटर, मतलब 20K 25K तक का अच्छा मॉनिटर ले लो, दैट इज बेटर। एक बढ़िया माउस ले लो, दैट इज स्टिल बेटर। मैं और भी बता रहा हूँ, मैकेनिकल कीबोर्ड ले लो भाई, स्टिल बेटर। आईपैड मत लो ना भाई। मतलब ले लोगे उसके बाद तुम्हें लगेगा कि मतलब वो है। मैं यार तुम्हें आईपैड में मूवी देखना भी इतना इनकन्वीनियंट होता है, हाथ में इतना बड़ा डिवाइस लेके बैठे रहो, फाइनली तुम फोन पे ही मूवी देखोगे लेट के, तो वेस्ट होता है। मतलब यू वांट यू, मतलब काफी कोडिंग मॉनिटर्स आते हैं, कोडिंग मॉनिटर्स करके आते हैं, इन्वेस्ट इन अ गुड कोडिंग मॉनिटर और समथिंग, जो मतलब तो इससे प्रोडक्टिविटी डेफिनेटली बूस्ट होती है। एक तो कुछ वेस्ट नहीं होता भाई, जो लैपटॉप में है वही स्क्रीन पे दिखेगा, कुछ एक्स्ट्रा तो तुम खेल खिलौना तो है नहीं। तो इन्वेस्ट इन अ गुड कोडिंग मॉनिटर आई बिलीव। मैकबुक एयर M1 हो सकता है तुम्हारे स्पेसिफिक में कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो, नहीं तो दिखा सकते हो तुम। मेरे पास मैक प्रो M1 है, मेरे में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं आती है सच। गेमिंग मॉनिटर नहीं, नॉर्मल मॉनिटर। गेमिंग करो तो गेमिंग मॉनिटर लो ना। हाँ, और मैकबुक भी आजकल बहुत कॉस्टली हो गया, मतलब क्यों ही लेना है, मतलब मुझे तो समझ नहीं आता, अगर तुम्हें मैकबुक भी लेना क्यों ही लेना है। सबसे सस्ती लिनक्स मशीन ले लो, 30,000 की जाके, उबंटू लिनक्स मशीन ले लो भाई जाके। फाइनली तो जब कोड भी गूगल में भी आके कोड करोगे ना, तो डिप्लॉयमेंट या तुम्हारे सर्वर्स वगैरह सारे लिनक्स के सर्वर हैं। कोई पॉइंट नहीं है। उबंटू जो 30,000 का 33,000 का आएगा, उबंटू लैपटॉप ले लो भाई, विंडोज खरीदो ही मत। और प्रॉब्लम ये भी नहीं, अब तो विंडोज भी थोड़ा बेटर हो गया है, शायद थोड़ा सा फास्ट हो गया है, बट विंडोज की अपनी 6-7 हज़ार की कॉस्ट होती है। दैट्स एडेड प्रेशर ऑन योर पॉकेट। तो और मैक में फिर मैक खरीदोगे तो मैक के साथ फिर वो कनेक्टर लो। अब तो अच्छा, अब नए वालों में तो कनेक्टर नहीं लेना पड़ता, पर हाँ मेरे वाले में तो कनेक्टर वनेक्टर लो, बहुत वो है। मतलब अगर तुम्हें प्रोडक्टिविटी बूस्ट चाहिए तो ट्राई टू इन्वेस्ट इन बेटर थिंग्स। मस्त रहता है यार। चिल है, कोई नहीं। देख लो, अगर तुम्हें कहीं खर्ची करना है भाई, कोई बढ़िया सब्सक्रिप्शन ले लो भाई, आईपैड मत लो। ठीक है। दैट बीइंग सेड, आज के लेक्चर को रैप अप करते हैं। विल मीट अप सून इन द नेक्स्ट सेशन गाइस। टिल देन टेक केयर, बाय बाय। In the next session, we'll continue our discussion on solid principle. Please, please, please attempt to take home assignment and keep coding, guys.